Thank you for listening to the Golden Hour Drip podcast with me, Logan Lee Miller. Enjoy the show. Every year, I think winter is not that bad, right? Like, I'm having a good time, I'm enjoying it. Family time, being cozy inside, watching movies, like doing all the things, right? And I feel like I'm fine. I don't notice any sort of like difference, right? Like maybe a little low energy. But the real change is when the sun comes out, it gets to be, I don't know, like 65, 70 degrees outside. And I'm like, oh my gosh, suddenly I have all this energy. Suddenly I am bouncing off the freaking walls and I'm having a good time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like the last month has been like super low energy. But during the month, like when you're in it, you don't realize how bad it actually is until the sunshine comes out, until you are outside, until you get to enjoy all of the beautiful, weather. I have been walking outside barefoot, to grab the mail, to let the dogs out. The grass is starting to grow. She's still a little crispy because last late summer, we didn't get that much rain. Our grass kind of crisped up and it has yet to go through like the growing period again where it actually is lush and full again. But I'm excited for spring, okay? And I might be a little stir crazy right now, or not. I don't think, maybe stir crazy is not the right word. I am feeling rambunctious, or I wouldn't say manic. It's really not manic. I'm feeling good though. Like I'm feeling like I can accomplish anything. I feel like I'm ready for spring. I'm ready for new beginnings. I'm ready for being outside, soaking up the sun, doing all the things. And this past week, I cut my hair. If you're watching on YouTube, I cut my hair. I usually do a little gloss, a little glaze. She's looking fresh. Okay, fresh cut. And maybe I'm the only one who does this, but I swear, every single time I get my hair cut, which I have an appointment every 6 to 7 weeks. I schedule it with my girl Dharma. Super amazing. I love her. I chatter with her all the entire appointment. I'm talking to her. It's always a great time. And as soon as I'm done, if I didn't get my coffee that morning, I grab coffee. And sometimes I'll have coffee at home, right? I have this great machine. But if I'm running late, usually I have a morning appointment, like a 9, a 10 situation. I'll grab us both coffee and I get my hair cut. And then the next step, and this is so vital, especially in summertime. I never do this really in the winter, but I go through the car wash. It is a magical moment where my hair is done. I have a coffee and I'm going through the car wash. It is unmatched. It's my favorite thing. And I was just thinking about the regularly scheduled events of my life, right? I'm like, man, I actually go to the car wash after getting my hair done quite a lot. It's ABC, right? You can't do one without doing the other. And it always just makes me feel so good chopping my hair a little bit, giving it a little trim, letting the ends feel clean, crisp, cut. And then I'm getting a shampoo, right? I'm getting a condition, I'm getting a gloss, and my vehicle should also get that, right? So she's also getting a shampoo, a wax, a little blow dry, right? We're both feeling our best. And I think it's just it stems from, change, right? You get your hair done, even if it's not that big of a change, because honestly, I usually just get a trim, I get a gloss, a glaze, whatever you want to call it. People call it different things. I think technically I get a glaze because it's a little bit of color deposit for my ends that I bleached last summer. So it's a bit of a glaze, but I just feel so good afterwards, and it's definitely monumental. It's this pivotal change. It's, hey, we are a new girl, we have new hair. And then the next easiest step for me is, I'm gonna wash my vehicle because I'm in my vehicle. Maybe I vacuum a little bit and now I have a clean car. And this, I swear, this helps me, even if the sun wasn't out and shiny. This does help my mood. This does help motivate me. This does help get me on track by, okay, My hair is done. My vehicle is washed. What's next on my list? Cleaning my house. And Friday afternoon, I cleaned my house. I still have a couple areas that are needing some work done, like my office. Big things changing, coming for the office. But I really went into like a full cleaning mode. My hair was perfect, right? My hair is like so beautiful, clean, freshly blow dried, curled. I threw that hair up and I got to work. I literally cleaned our entire house. Maybe this was just sort of, it's spring. It's like spring cleaning. I opened all the windows, every single window. I opened the front and back door too, which it was kind of windy. So the wind would kind of, what is it, like create a vacuum in our house. And all of a sudden a door would slam and I'd be like, oh crap, you know, because I'm listening to music, I'm just cleaning and I have all the windows. So it might be like my bedroom door would slam shut or front door would slam shut. And I was like, oh gosh, like I forgot about that. And I don't have any like door stops to like force them to be open. But I'm ready for spring. I'm ready for fresh air, honestly. And the only thing left on my list is my office, and I need to wash my sheets. I did not get to do that, which was unfortunate because I always feel like clean sheets is something to like really seal the deal, to be like, all right, we have everything cleaned, we've taken a shower, and now we're gonna get into cozy, clean sheets. Honestly, that's amazing. That's perfect. Friday night, I got to stay in. I have not stayed in for a Friday night for a while. I think staying in on a Friday night is just elite. When you know you don't have anything to do, when you can just like mosey around. And I was feeling really good this Friday. I woke up early. I went to my hot yoga class. I, came home, I made my coffee, I went and got my hair done, came home, got some work done, and then that, afternoon, cleaned my house. What did we have for supper? Oh my gosh, we made the most, because one of the goals is to make more food at home, right? And I think everyone goes through this like spurt of where they don't eat anything great in the house and they like pick up some takeout, or they're not having real meals, right? And I think it was laziness on my part, and I think it was the lack of motivation and lack of, honestly, sunshine, okay? And so our meals have not been gourmet. They've been pretty basic. Like, I'm talking, like some noodles, or let's just make a protein and there's no sides. This Friday we made stir fry, kinda. So I had 2 heads of broccoli, so we chopped that up. We chopped some carrots up, some onion. Oh my gosh, I made like a soy sauce situation to pour on top. It was like vinegar, soy sauce. I put some brown sugar in there. I put some garlic. I put the only thing I did not have was sesame seed oil, which was really sad, but I need to pick up groceries anyways, so it's going on the list. And it was amazing. And this is kind of horrible, but vegetables have been really hard for me to get in lately. Like a whole vegetable, like carrots or celery, or like, I don't know. They're not necessarily in season because it's winter still, it's February, right? Like, and we just haven't been eating that many vegetables. We've been eating some potatoes, but that's like not great. So I'm trying really, really hard to incorporate some vegetables in our diet, which sounds absolutely horrific, right? Like, why am I not eating vegetables? So I'm trying really hard to get those incorporated. We have carrots in our fridge. Like, I'm doing the bare minimum. But whenever you travel, right? Like, I have been nonstop going places, right? And when you travel, you're eating at a restaurant, and I'm not saying it's unhealthy, right? You're eating at a restaurant, or you're grabbing things from the gas station, or maybe it's fast food, maybe it's all the things. It's like, sometimes you need like bland food, like back to the basics. I'm not saying that our steak stir fry was basic, because it did have a lot of flavors like garlic and spices and all of those things, but it was homemade. Like, we had carrots, we had broccoli, and sometimes my body just craves like simplistic food, right? Like just food made at home. I don't know why, but like sometimes if you have too much like fast food or you're traveling too much or it's a restaurant, like it's just not the same. I feel like my entire palate needs to be cleansed. I feel like it's just not as good, you know? So I was really excited to have Friday in, to cozy up, to just hang out. And it helped that my entire kitchen was clean. It helped that my house was nice. It helped that, you know, I did a lot of cleaning before I left, but of course, like, it was just kind of the top stuff. Like, I didn't mop, that's for sure. I didn't mop. It needed some sprucing. You know, I think moms love that word. Like, oh, it just needs a little sprucing. I see it on social media too. Like, shaping. That's the sound. It's like, oh, it just needs a little shaping. The house needed just a little bit of sprucing, if you will, right? So I've just been in a really happy spring cleaning mood. I've like kind of been in the mood to throw things out too. Like, do I need this anymore? Is this something that I've used lately? And I was kind of thinking like, why am I holding on to things that I'm like, oh, like I might need that one day, or oh, I might get back into that. Like, I haven't used it for like 2 years. Like, maybe it's time to get rid of it, right? Like, maybe it's time to, donate it or give it away. I have a really hard time with like my collegiate shirts or like collegiate wear. I'm like, oh, like I might wear this sometimes, or this was my favorite shirt. And then I'm like, oof, like, do I even want to wear that anymore? Not really. Do I pack it away in hopes that when I'm 35, 40, 50, I want to like pull it out and see it? Am I saving it for my children? What am I actually saving it for? Because if it's just memory lane, is an old t-shirt going to do that for me? Or should I be trying something else, right? So I've kind of just been going through that mindset of, am I actually going to want this in a couple of years? Is this actually something that I see myself oh my gosh, that's not the right word. Commemorating, that's it. Commemorating against or for or whatever. So spring cleaning is in full force. Maybe you're feeling this way too, because I think it's a rite of passage to welcome in summer, and we're getting ahead of ourselves, I know, but I'm ready to be done with winter. I am ready to pack up my sweaters. That's also on my list, to do the transition of winter and fall clothing to my spring clothing upstairs. I've already forgotten what I've packed in those totes. I think it's so good to switch out your clothing by putting it into storage, whether it's under your bed, whether it's in the attic, whether it's in the garage, wherever, because your mind forgets what you have. And you're like, oh, I bought this top. Maybe it was a top you wore a lot last summer and you kind of got tired of it and you almost thought about throwing it away. But now it's a new year and you open it up and you're like, oh my gosh, I remember you. I can't wait to wear you. Instead of seeing it in your closet 24/7, right? Like, you're looking for something to wear and you say, oh, like this top, I'm so tired of it. I wore it so much. And it's like in your brain of seeing it constantly. Okay. I'm trying to avoid that. I want everything to feel like a present and feel like it's new for me. So every fall or spring, when I'm packing up my clothes from the previous season, I pack it with care. I pack it with love. I make sure that they're cleaned. I make sure that I have taken my little dog hair roller. I put dryer sheets in there. I'm making sure that it smells fresh, it smells good, that they're pressed and not wrinkly. And I really try and take care of it before putting it away in storage. So when I open it, it's like brand new clothing and it feels so good. And if I open it up and I find things I don't necessarily like anymore, that's the time to donate. Get rid of it. Open up some space in my closet for sure. But yeah, let's get into the peak and the pit of this week. The peak of my week was my own bed, my own house, my own shower, my own coffee pot, okay? Being at home, I love traveling. I do. I love a hotel. I love spending time with my friends, my family, wherever. But there's something so relieving and relaxing about being in your own home. Because the weekend before Florida, I had gone to Chicago with Lily. I stayed at my mom and dad's. I stayed in Lily's dorm room, came back for a couple nights, and then flew out for, and then we went to Pella for the Super Bowl. I feel like so much has happened, right? Like February was jam-packed with things, but it's gone so fast. Like where did it go? I knew it was gonna be a blink in the eye or a blink of the eye. And I did so much, right? Like I did not waste February in any which way. I experienced every part of it. I said yes to things, but what the heck? It's almost over. And it almost feels like so many lifetimes ago when the Super Bowl happened. Or even the 1st of February, right? Like to get from January to February, and then we had the Super Bowl. Golden Hour Drip had their 4th anniversary. We had the Golden Gal Network event. So many things have happened in February. I feel so good about them. It's hard to believe that it's over, but I did a lot of traveling, and it's so nice to be in your own home. And I have more travels coming up. And I'm like, man, I do enjoy being in my house, and I try really hard not to plan anything for Sunday. This Sunday I have plans, right? Like it's not going to work out, but I try really hard not to have anything planned on Sunday. And every other Friday I'd like to stay at home. I'm not saying I never schedule anything on Friday, because Friday night is the end of the work week, and I know a lot of people want to go out and they want to like get drinks or go out for supper or go to the movies or anything really. But it's so nice to have like a Friday in, and to know my busyness might be on Saturday, or my busyness might have been throughout the week. And although I'd love a free weekend, I know that that's not my personality, and I will jam pack it full of anything that I can. But I do enjoy the ease of having a day in my home, just with no real obligation, with nothing that needs to be accomplished, nothing that needs to be done, and just accepting that relaxation. And it makes it even better when I do have those periods of I've cleaned everything, like I've taken care of everything. Laundry is caught up, my suitcases have been put away, and I can just sit and watch the dogs, watch the sun, or watch TV, honestly, and start planning for like the next thing in my life. And having the comfort of my own home really gives my brain a chance to think about what we've done, think about what we've experienced in the last couple of weeks, and how we can move forward, me and my brain and I, right? And there's just a simplistic pleasure of waking up in your own bed, putting on your fluffy robe, going into the kitchen and making a cup of coffee. And don't get me wrong, Rachel and Andrew had an espresso. The ease of an espresso is unmatched. I still love my Bambino Breville. Like, I love it. I love pouring myself a shot, measuring it out. I love going to the grocery store and seeing what new coffee flavor I can pick up and grind in the store. It's extra fresh. Rachel and Andrew's little Nespresso had perfect crema. It was so easy, self-cleaning. It was amazing. And then they had a little milk frother. You could do a cold milk froth, I don't know. Or you could do like a steamed hot foamy milk. Like you guys know I love milk, okay? So for my lattes, I usually do a lot of milk and a little coffee, and it was so easy, but I do like making coffee at home, and I am getting better at the foam and being able to froth it up. And I like a good like 2 or 3 inches of foam. That might seem a lot to you, but I'm only doing 2 shots of espresso, so it's not even that bad for me, right? And whatever I'm like foaming it up, especially this past week when I got home, I was like, man, we just had to pour milk in that automatic frother. It would whirl up, do its thing, and then boom, I had coffee. But I do appreciate like being at home, being able to make coffee, be able to hang out with Garrett. I did not talk about that at all, but I do miss Garrett a lot when I travel, and I try not to think about it as much when I'm out and about. But when I come home, it is really nice to, you know, be reunited. I hate it so much more when he leaves me, like when he goes somewhere to travel. And of course, like when I travel, I get distracted by all the things like Disney and hanging out, experiencing a new place, visiting with my friends. And he's, you know, at home by himself. But I don't know. And Rooster and Rowdy is definitely my peak. Just being at home, being able to relax and hang out. Now, I will say, my pit of the week, with all this spring cleaning, with all of, you know, pulling things out of the closet and making way for the new and just getting ready for things, I was going through my little laundry room and I was like, oh, this cabinet's full of stuff. We're not even using all this stuff. What can we pull out? What can I do? And as I was going through it, I found this little sandwich bag. And last year I had some calla lilies that I planted in front of my window, but I didn't plant them deep enough. And when they bloomed, the stalks like fell over and the wind came and like knocked them over. I planted them, I think too late. And so last fall I cut all of the tops off. I just kept the bulbs in the garage for about 2 weeks or so, maybe longer. And then I remembered them. I was like, oh, I'm gonna store those inside. I put them in a little baggie and I guess threw them in my laundry room and I forgot about them. And I guess it's not that big of a pit because I'm glad that I found them when I did. But as I was rummaging through the laundry, I found the bag and they have started to sprout a little bit. So if you've never planted any sort of bulb, the bulb is like the heart and the brain of this plant. Some plants have like roots, like a lot of roots. Some of them just have like one long tap root, like a carrot has a tap root, or it has like the regular roots that you think about when you think about like a plant. And then some have a bulb. And if you like rip it out, the bulb does grow roots around it as well, like out of the bulb. An onion has a bulb, right? The onion that you eat is the bulb. But calla lilies also have this. Lots of, is it tulips? Tulips have a bulb. Elephant ears are a bulb. Like there's multiple that you have. And if you pull them out of the ground, because an elephant ear is like a warm plant, you can't have that year round outside in Missouri usually. Like we're kind of on the edge of it being warm enough to keep a plant like that outside. But you just pull them out if you want. A calla lily would have been okay in the ground and stayed there until the next year. But since I planted them in a spot that I don't necessarily want them next year, and also I didn't plant them as deep, I just pulled them out. Just pulled them out, cut the tops off, threw them in a bag, and it has started to like grow its like first shoot. And so I really need to get them in the ground. And it's a little too early. It's not, well, I don't know. It's kind of too early, but it's not really. Some people start planting for their gardens in like January, February. It's kind of becoming the time to be thinking about my outside and thinking about my flowers and thinking about what I'm going to be putting out and how I'm wanting to arrange things. It's going to be our 3rd summer in this house, and I still just feel a little bit like a kid playing house. Like I still don't feel very adult-like, and I honestly think my style is not great. Like, I was thinking about how I've arranged our home, and it's something that I think that I need to work on. I want to like scroll on Pinterest, I want to find things, but I also like want to develop something that I also like myself and not just like copy what someone else has. So it's kind of like this dilemma, and I know that's gone deeper than just calla lily bulbs, but now I'm like overthinking my outside, and I'm like, oh yeah, we need to buy new patio furniture. It's been about like 2 years since I've wanted new patio furniture, and thinking about, oh well, like, are we going to be building a garage here? Like, how long are we actually going to stay in this house? Should I be planting trees? Like, should I be planting a fruit tree? Because I love fruit trees. Like, I would love to have an apple tree. I'd love to have a pear tree. And then I think, oh, like, am I wasting by like planting these things? Or should I have planted these things last year or the year before when we first moved here or whatever? And now I'm all up in my head about freaking plants and our home and just not feeling settled almost. Maybe this is just a spiral, which it could possibly be, and I hope I'm not the only one who feels like this, but I might have just like a tinge of like Neverland syndrome, where like I never want to grow up, I never want to, you know, be an adult, and it's kind of hitting me, and I hope it's my frontal lobe fully developing. And I'm like, okay, like, I am actually an adult. I'm not 16. It will be almost 10 years since I was 16, which is crazy to think about. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, we need to get it together. And I will get it together because I know I can do that. I'm not a person who loves change that much. So I'm going to be embracing it this year. I'm going to be embracing the change. I'm going to be embracing commitment. And embracing just making memories and being okay with that. So this pit was definitely a spiral. So sorry, but I do need to get the calla lilies out. I need to have some sort of aesthetic. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk right now. I need to develop some sort of aesthetic for our house. I need to start working on like one room at a time, because I think I'm becoming overwhelmed, and I'm like, oh, it has to be perfect. Like, it has to, am I breaking out in hives? I think I might be. Oh my gosh. I got a little hot. But like our bathroom, like my, my spare bathroom, like, can I add anything to that? Like a shelf. Like, we don't have any shelves in this house. We don't have any, we have one photo on the wall. Like, I'm just, maybe it's the spring cleaning talking, maybe it's springtime talking, but I don't know. I need to get it together. I would love to get some things on the walls. I'd love to plant my calla lily bulbs somewhere and be happy with them, be happy where they're at, and not overthink it too much, because as a past or previous perfectionist, because perfectionism is literally not doing anything because you want it to be perfect, and so you become like immobilized and you don't execute anything. So I've been trying really, really hard to embrace the imperfectionist in me. Oh, that was so hard to say, and just do it. And if it's a mistake, like, I'll be able to fix it. I'll be able to bounce back. But instead of like holding so tightly to things being perfect, or the arrangement of my bulbs like having to be perfect, or putting them in the right location, I'm just gonna embrace, because I pulled them up last year. I literally ripped them from the ground and threw them in a plastic bag and was like, I'm gonna think about those next spring. Well, guess what? It's next spring. I need to get together. I need to think about it, see where I'm gonna put them. Last year, if you remember, if you listened on the podcast, I bought like $400 worth of hydrangeas. Every single one of those suckers perished. So I did save zinnia seeds. I might be throwing those out in a couple weeks. But yeah, the calla lilies, as small as they seemed, literally threw me into a spiral. It's unreal. Like, how can a plant do this to me? Like, how can, it's indecisiveness. That's what did it for me. And you know what? That was past Logan not looking out for future Logan, because past Logan would have planted them somewhere, right? Like, so that they could just pop up. And now I gotta figure it out. Hey, I hope that you're enjoying today's podcast episode. Just a quick interruption to let you know that Golden Hour Drip has a weekly newsletter that comes out. This has bonus content, weekly updates, and future event information. If you haven't already, go down to the show notes, click the link, and join today. Now, back to the show. Okay, moving to something more positive than my calla lilies. Being at home has also brought me back to my puzzle. I've been working on this New York puzzle for New York. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Anyways, this New York puzzle, I have been loving it. I have not looked at the box at all, and it actually is quite intense. Intense as a puzzle can get, honestly, but I have a whole side created, and I'm doing very well, okay? I've been having my coffee, drinking it, and putting together my puzzle my puzzle pieces. This week I have been a little tired just from traveling last week and then getting right into it this week, but having that time to myself in the morning has been so impactful. I don't do anything else. The first thing I do when I get out of my bed, it has not been make the bed. First, I will get out of bed, I will use the restroom, do those things, and then I head to the kitchen and I make coffee. I make a coffee for Garrett. He's been up for a couple hours by this time, so I bring him his coffee, and then I make my coffee. And then I take my hot little latte, I sit down at the kitchen table, and I've been piecing together this puzzle. I don't have my phone. I don't have any sort of music playing. I'm sitting in utter silence. It has been so good. I didn't realize how much time I spend listening or having something entertain me than to just sit with myself. And I know a puzzle might be entertaining. You could qualify that as entertaining. I get it, I understand. But it's a non-stimulating, yes, it's stimulating my brain. I don't know how to explain this properly. You obviously get it. It's a puzzle, it's a flat puzzle. It's not animated, it's not talking. I have to make it work. I have to put the puzzles together. I have to put them in place. I'm letting my mind and eye coordination work. So I've been enjoying it. This week I have been a little tired, but it's not in the bad, motivating, winter blues kind of way. I actually have just had longer days. I've been running around, and I have some really exciting news. I did mention this back in January when Kennedy and I did a podcast together. But this week I officially started hot yoga training. I'm so excited, and I was a bit nervous. So far I've had 3 classes now, and I just know that this has been perfect alignment for me. I personally love to push myself. I love to learn new things every year. I really try to enrich and develop my mind. If you don't use it, you lose it, right? So I've been trying to use my mind. I've been trying to use my brain. And sometimes we get so caught up in our 8 to 5, because that's how it is now, an 8 to 5, get so caught up in everything else that I'm not learning ever. And I think it's great to incorporate things that are away from our job, that are different from our job, because, and I know this from last year when I was at my corporate job, I held a lot of my identity with that job and with the title that came with it, right? I swear the first thing you do when you meet someone new is, hi, I'm Logan. I work at X company as a Y specialist, right? We automatically say what we do for a living. And I think that it's so boring. And I hate that people always want to talk about work when we're out doing something outside of work. We're not even at work. So why are you talking about work? When I'm not at work, I want to completely separate from work. I've always been like this. It's not something that I want to carry through in the conversation. And if you listen to last Friday's episode, we had a listener ask a question about being passionate or finding her passion. So make sure you go and listen to last week's episode. But we really do tie so much of our life to a job. And if we are like totally happy with our job and it's our end all be all and it's our identity, like we're not individuals. Instead, it's like, hi, I'm Logan. I'm a baker. And then everything about me being a baker. No, like we are so much more than our jobs. And I think if we can find a bit of personality outside of our work, that is incredible, right? And what else? And I've fallen into this trap before when people want to talk about their job, or maybe I mention my job and I think, oh, like what else is there to talk about? Especially with Garrett, okay? We spend a lot of our day together. We both work remotely. But for me to be like sitting at the dining room table and be like, hey, like what's new with you? And he talks about work for like, I don't know, 5 minutes, as quick as you can, but work. And then he asks me about work and I tell him the 5 minutes synopsis of my day. What else are you supposed to talk about? Oh my gosh. And so you have to continuously add things to your life and continuously like experience things. Winter is so hard, and I feel like we just have like the same type of day, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna come home, watch some TV and go to bed. And we're not experiencing as much in the wintertime. It is literally a winter, right? Like things are in rest, things aren't like in full bloom, if you will. So I get it, like we're not doing things. But with spring and with the new year, like I want to be adding to my experiences. I want to be adding to my life and the things that bring me joy. And if you want to have interesting conversations with people, you have to do interesting things. You have to be putting yourself out there. You have to be experiencing new environments, meeting new people. Because if you just spend your time with the same, I don't know, 3 people, it's like your coworker, your parents, and your significant other. Let's just say that, right? You have to make time for your friends. You have to make time to meet new friends. And I really do want to get uncomfortable this year and push myself to do things I've never done before. And truly the only way to do that is to take a massive like jump or leap, or if you're finding any sort of interest with anything and then like building upon it, right? I've been doing hot yoga for the past couple months. I've been absolutely enjoying it. I started last fall when I switched from Cycle Bar to Power Life, and it honestly was the perfect switch that I needed at that time. And I just feel like it was only like it was just the perfect step. It was I saw like this teacher training and I was like, oh, like I wonder what that entails. And the commitment level was lower than I anticipated. So it's only like 3 days a week for 8 weeks. I was like, I did that stuff like in college. Like I can do this, right? Like I don't know. Maybe it was 16 weeks in college, but my mind has been craving to learn something, and what better way than the fundamentals of yoga, because this is something that will increase and help my longevity. This is something that I can fall back on at any time, and I truly think that no experience is ever wasted. So say I don't actually like become a yoga teacher, because that would be the next step, right? You go to yoga teacher training, you become a yoga instructor. Maybe I just want to learn the fundamentals. Maybe I just want this certification so then I can build upon it in the future. You never know what will happen. So I'm all for it. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm loving every single aspect of where I am right now. And it's getting me out of the house, right? Like it's getting me out of my comfortability, things that I've been doing day to day. And I'm like, why not? Why not? And I've had a blast. This week was like our first week, so just breaking down all of the postures and learning the actual fundamentals. I have never had any sort of teaching with yoga. Like I've gone to classes, and I've definitely, with the postures, looked at my neighbor, looked at my other neighbor, looked in front of me, and I was like, oh, like I'm gonna do what they're doing, right? And I'm learning some of the things that, or some of the habits I've picked up is actually incorrect, so that's great. But just like learning how to do the postures correctly, learning that, you know, there's no pain in yoga, and that it's supposed to be helping assist, or, okay, this is crazy. So, you know, when you were in school and maybe you're in gym class, maybe you were an athlete, and you would do these stretches, and normally you would just like, you would be, I want to say sits bones, because that's what I've been learning in yoga class, but you would be sitting on your bum, right? And there would be like a figure 4 stretch where you'd like put one leg straight, and then you'd bend the other leg into a 4. And then you would also like do a straight legged stretch, like touch your toes, but you're like on your butt, right? And so I have, my wingspan is long. It's longer than I think it is, right? I've always been able to touch my toes and even like go further than my toes. And I always thought this was supposed to be a calf stretch, calf and hamstring stretch. So I would always be flexing my feet. I would be pulling against my leg. And I thought this was the same in yoga, but it's not. It's not. It's supposed to be a spine stretch. So here I am, been like flexing my back, pulling my legs, trying to just have some sort of resistance to stretch my hamstring and my calf, because that's what I thought it was for. No, it's for your back. Oh, cool. Or at least it is for yoga. And you're supposed to have like a rounded spine and not a flat back. And I'm like, oh, I've been doing this completely wrong. And I just think learning something new, learning the fundamentals is so fun. And you know what? You will never, one thing that my grandfather always would say is no one can take your education away from you. The thoughts and the, what you've learned, everything in your brain, nobody can take it away from you. Someone can take your house, someone can take all your money, someone can take, you know, every single thing that they own or you own. Your husband can leave, your kids can move away, like, but nobody can take the knowledge from your brain. And I've always held on to that. And I will never regret like going to school or going to college or getting my education in this or that. Like, I will never regret any part of it, because I have all that knowledge in my head. And yeah, I might forget it at some times, but I mean, all you need is a little refresher course and to rethink about it. Like the bulbs that I was explaining and the root systems, like I learned that in college, or, you know, I learned part of that from my mom. And the things that we accumulate in our brain and the things that we like put in there, you will never regret having the education. You will never regret learning something new and stretching your mind. And I've kind of like for the past couple of years, I think I really started this when I was 22, thinking on how I can just create longevity for my mind, and getting space away from, you know, social media. And that's why I don't post on Instagram as much anymore. And I go outside and I lay on my hammock and I try to like just figure out ways that are going to help my brain stay as healthy as long as possible. And same goes with my body. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I have a really, really hard time separating all the thoughts in my head, right? Juggling so much. And yoga just gives me that opportunity to connect to my body and to flush out all of the voices in my head. It's my own voice, right? But thoughts is what I mean. And to just like have this ping-ponging effect of, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Oh yeah, I forgot to send this email, I forgot to connect with that person. And to just like be on my back, be where my feet are. That's something that I've struggled with for a very long time. To just be able to do those things, I'm in love, it's great, it's amazing. This past week, we had on Saturday, we had like a long training. It was from 9 to 5. And since I was in the Kansas City area, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to text some of my friends and I'm going to see if they want to meet up for lunch or supper, okay? Or dinner, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, you know what? Let's eat at BRGR. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. It's basically a burger joint, right? But it's BRGR. And I texted everyone. I put it in the Golden Gal Network group chat, and I was like, hey, does anybody like want to grab lunch? I'm sorry, I keep saying lunch. I call everything lunch, honestly. And I'm like, do you guys want to grab supper at, BRGR, maybe around 6 o'clock? Because I didn't know how long my yoga training would take, and if it would be delayed, if it would take longer than expected, or even like I might have to change, like if I get sweaty, any of the things. So a couple girls were like, yes, I want to come, like I'll meet you there. Perfect, amazing. So I tried to get a head count, and I was like, I think roughly we're gonna have 5 people. So I went online to BRGR and I tried to make a reservation. Well, guess what? There was no reservations available. So I'm like, not sure how I'm gonna swing this, but I'll figure it out. So yoga gets over, right? My yoga training, which was all day Saturday, it went quicker than I expected. Like I was like, oh, like we're moving right along. I do feel like my brain is about to fall out of my head because it has just soaked up so much knowledge and so much stuff. But as I'm like, hanging out, we get done and I make my way over to BRGR. I'm sitting in my vehicle. I parked right up front. And I was like, this is amazing, like front row parking. And I give them a call. At this time, it is 5:11. And I pull up my phone, I give them a call. I'm not going inside yet. And I say, hey, like, what's the wait time for 5 people? And they're like, the wait time right now is like nothing. There's nobody, like you would be able to be seated immediately. I said, oh, okay, like we're not there yet. It would probably be like 30 minutes. And that was being generous. It's like 5:45, right? And we're meeting at 6. So she was like, I don't know, like we might get busy around that time. Rightfully so. It is Saturday, okay? It's Saturday at 6 p.m. Everyone wants to go get something to eat at this time. So I was like, okay, like, I will let you know when we get there. I'll just like come in, right? And so as I'm waiting in my vehicle, I see more and more people showing up, and I see bigger groups of people showing up. And I was like, crap. I've never been here before, so I didn't know the setup. And at 5:30, we're about 30 minutes, right? It was like 5:24. So I go in, I say, hey, like, what's the wait time for 6? Because I had another girl say that she was gonna come. It's like, hey, what's the wait time for 6? And they're like, and the person right ahead of me was like, hey, we have 7, and they were immediately sat. But then I saw another long table that kind of like kind of looked like it was reserved, but I didn't see any other long tables. I was like, perfect, I'm coming in and letting you know we have 6. They could tell me the wait time is going to be 30 minutes, and that's fine. They could say it's 45 minutes. That's also fine. Lots of people show up late. So I'm like, yeah, like, what's the wait time? She's like, well, I can get you seated right now. And I was like, I just want to be perfectly clear. I'm a bit early. And she goes, that's fine. I said, I'm like 30 minutes early. She goes, that's okay. And I said, are you sure? I promise I will tip well. I have 6 girls coming, and there's going to be 6 of us. Can you please, like, I just want to make sure that's okay. And she said, absolutely, let me get these 2 tables pushed together, and we'll get you seated. And I was like, okay, amazing. But always, like, during these things, I never know who's actually going to show up. So, because it's an open invitation, I was petrified. I was like, golly, like, should I send a follow-up text? And I did. I was like, hey, like, if anybody, wants to join, like, I think I have 5 people. But really, I had only had, like, 2 like the message, 1 person say that they might come, and, like, all these things. Oh, and 1 person swiped up on my story. I was like, oh, gosh, like, here I am, like, 30 minutes early, and I get seated. He brings out the waters, and I explained to him, I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I'm a little early. I do have people coming. And he was like, that's fine. You take all the time that you need, and I will be back, okay? And so I'm sitting there, and he asked me if I wanted a drink while I wait, and I said, yes. So I got, like, a drink, and I'm sitting there, and I'm, like, nervous. I'm like, what if nobody comes? And I see more and more people come through the door, and I'm like, golly, like, I kind of feel bad. Like, people are waiting, and I'm sitting at this table by myself. And I would have got a reservation, but they didn't have reservations. And I just was like, gosh, I don't want to seem like a rude person. Everyone was fine. Like there were smaller tables. There was no big parties that came in after me. And I wait there for 10 minutes and I'm waiting. I'm like, okay, it's 5:40. So maybe someone will show up 15 minutes early. That's always nice. And I'm reading a book on my phone. I forgot what it's called. It's pretty good though. And I'm like starting to read a book and I'm sitting by myself. And I notice like every once in a while, I will catch someone looking at my table. Maybe that couple over there, those grandparents or that kid, like whatever. I'm sitting completely by myself. And I'm drinking my drink. I'm just trying to read my book. This is why I love Kindle, because I didn't have to pack a book. I literally just pulled out my phone and was able to swipe through it. I was like, okay, amazing. Like, I have something to pay attention to. And I really wish I could give you the name of the book, but I can't think of it right now. So I have to tell you next week on what I'm reading or what I've read. Oh, if you can follow me on Goodreads, I guess, and you can see what I've started reading. I've been kind of in a reading rut the last 2 weeks because I've been so busy, but I started this book out of embarrassment of being alone, right? So I'm reading this book and nobody is there yet, and it's 5:50 at this point, and I'm like, okay, I don't know. I feel like time just slows down so much when you're by yourself, right? Like you're just sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm all by myself. I really hope my friends show up. And then at 6 o'clock, one of my gals, Kelsey, came, and I was like, I think 6 o'clock came, and I was like, nobody is still here. And I was like, maybe now I start looking at the door. So I'm scrolling and then I look at the door, scrolling the pages. Okay, I'm still reading. I'm trying to be productive. So I'm reading and I look at the door, and then I'm reading and I look at the door. 6:05, Kelsey comes, and I was like, hi, it's so good to see you. I finally have a friend. She sits down, and I tell her I've been here for 30 minutes, by myself. Thank you for coming. Honestly, thank you for coming, because it is so appreciative when people take time out of their day to, if they schedule a plan with you, to actually come, right? Nobody forces anybody to be in a friendship, but it's so comforting when I felt like I was 7 again and I was waiting for people to show up at my birthday party. That's how I felt. And then another girl comes. It's 7:06 or 6:06. And another girl comes, and then another girl comes, and I'm like, yes, there's now 4 of us. Okay, 4 out of 6. That's great. And then finally, another gal comes, and then soon our table is full. And we had such a good time just talking and laughing and connecting and having burgers and drinks, and I had the best night. And I was so uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, reaching, and in the text I said, hey, a couple friends and I are grabbing something to eat. Does anybody want to come? But I had nobody coming. I didn't have anybody secured. And it was so nerve-wracking because I didn't at least have that one friend to show up, right? Or to come with me. Because it's one thing to text a friend, and it was kind of impromptu, right? It was Thursday. It's one thing to text a friend and be like, hey, let's go to supper, and then invite other people. And if they don't show up, that's on them, it's fine. But to go completely by yourself and just hope someone will come, I just felt so nervous. I was like, gosh, I felt vulnerable, honestly. I felt vulnerable and I felt so nervous, and I can't even tell you the relief I felt by just seeing people walk through the door and to smile and sit down, and we had an amazing time. We did, and I am so appreciative of each and every one of those girls who came, because honestly, I wanted to have supper with friends. I wouldn't say I was feeling lonely, but I definitely, I don't know. I feel we all have these moods where we haven't done anything that week and we want to go out, but who do you go out with? Who do you rely on? And although my brain was fried from yoga, I was I want more. I want a little bit more to my day. And it was seriously it was so good to just see them come and to have supper together. And it makes me think on the times that someone has invited me to something and I'm like, oh, like I really want to go, and I try so hard. Like if someone invites me to come somewhere, I do try to show up, even if it's for 10-15 minutes. Last Friday, one of my friends was having a little pop-up at a local restaurant for her boutique, and I was like, yes, like I'm gonna come, even though I felt like I had so much to do and I just felt like a little overwhelmed. Since I had told her I was gonna come, I went and I had a good time. I could only stay for 15 minutes, but I came, and I know that she saw me and I saw her, and I was trying to support her in the best way that possible, right? Like even if I couldn't be there for a longer amount of time. And it made me realize how important it is to show up for the people whom you love, to show up for the people who champion you, and in return, like they will show up and champion for you. And if they don't show up, then maybe that's not a friend that you're going to be keeping in the next 6 months, right? Like I've talked about soul contracts on here before. And maybe that friend is just being, phased out, if you will. I don't know. But it really just made it more apparent that personally I need to be supporting more than I ever have. And I've always been like a supportive person. I've always felt like I've been a good friend, but just being so vulnerable. And I feel like sometimes you have to experience something to really appreciate it more. And as I'm like sitting there, I'm like, gosh, like I'm so happy that nobody canceled on me. Like I'm so happy that these people came. They said that they were coming. They liked my message, or they'd sent me a DM or sent me a text, and here they were. And I'm so happy for the support system that I've built and the friendships that I've made. And I think as women, sometimes we don't put as much effort into female friendships that we should. Everyone networks for their work, right? And I always go back to this, like everyone wants to like move their career up, which I think is important as well. But how often do we network for friends? How often do we try and forge new friendships? It's so nerve-wracking going to a workout class, right? Or going to a coffee shop and trying to like meet a new friend and say, hey, like I'm Logan, I'm not weird, I promise. Do you want to hang out? And so it just makes me even more appreciative of the girls who I've met through the Golden Gal Network and through other meetups like the Kansas City Cuisine Club. I love that club, it's so good. And the girls that I've met through other clubs, right? So I'm feeling stretched for sure. Like I'm feeling like my emotions have been stretched. I feel like my brain has been stretched. I feel like right now I'm just in a very pivotal growing period. At spring, it only, it makes sense why I'm in such a growing period. I feel like I've been preparing a lot. November, December, January, I've been putting a lot of seeds in my life. I've been trying to plant as much as possible, and I'm waiting for things to bloom. I'm waiting for things to come full circle. It helps that the sun is shining now, and I just hope that all the things I've been preparing for, all the things that I've been hoping for and putting so much work in, I know they're gonna pay off. I know that they just need some tender love and care. And thank you to anybody and everybody who has supported either this podcast or the Golden Gal Network or me as a person, has sent like a nice DM or anything. Like, as you can tell from this week's episode, I have a few things going on. I have a lot going on, and I just want to make sure that I'm doing a good job for all the things. And like I haven't edited my YouTube video for like the previous week, so I know that I need to like sit down and do that. But I'm feeling so stretched, and if you are too, that just means good things are coming. Summer is coming, and I know that all the preparation that I've been doing is gonna pay off, and it's gonna be the best summer yet. So thank you so much for listening and spending this hour with me. If you haven't already, rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.